Oh man. Oh, guys, I have been super duper sick all week. I'm just starting to feel better, so I'm a little bit out of it. I'm super bummed, guys, because I have to wear my VFX hat. I can't find my Create hat. I wanted to bring you guys a tutorial, a Photoshop and Premiere tutorial. If you guys are fans of Peter McKinnon like I am, I think Peter McKinnon is awesome. His vlog is awesome. He gives you guys a lot of tips and techniques and stuff. His latest vlog, the one about leveling up your Instagram game, I thought was really, really interesting. He did this technique where he took a photo and he erased a subject and he had the subject fade back on in the photo, and he used that to make an Instagram template for an Instagram stories. But there was one thing that he kind of stumbled over, and he said, and I don't mean to like insult Peter McKinnon, if you have a complicated background, he was like, that's a little bit advanced, skip that. Try and have like a smooth and simple background in order to do this. And I was thinking, well, actually there's something we do in visual effects called shooting a clean plate that could make that technique really, really simple. So there's shooting a clean plate, and then there's this technique that I've known for ever, since like the 90s, that I've done in Photoshop to line things up that I want to show you guys. It's really simple. So this is really simple stuff, but basically I'm going to show you what Peter McKinnon showed you, but using a complicated background and a slightly different technique. Let's start the video. This is my complex transition. Okay, so the first thing I did is I went and I shot some photos of my wife, Becca Smith, out on my balcony, and across the street from us where we live here during the day, there's a Barnes & Noble. To erase her from that would be like crazy. I shot everything manual, guys, including the focus. This is really important. Shoot everything manual. Shoot a photo of your subject, and then you just ask them to duck or step out of the way, and you take a photo of the background with the exact same settings. So I had her do that a couple times, and that's kind of it. So now let's pop into Photoshop and show you guys what's what. I've just realized that I've been doing the hand transition thing like way too much.
All right, so here we are in Photoshop, and these are the photos I've taken. All I've done is taken both photos and opened them and copied and pasted them into the same Photoshop file. It's just one layer on top of the other. You can see that these two don't line up perfectly because I shot them handheld without a tripod. Not only that, there's movement in the background, so if you look, there's like people in different places and things like that. I'm gonna name these. I'm gonna call this Becca layer, and I'm gonna call this clean plate. Okay, so what Peter McKinnon did is he used something called content aware fill in Photoshop in order to just erase Becca from the background. Now, as he said, if you have like a complicated background, that's not going to work too well. I'm going to draw a really quick mask around her. You could use the pen tool. I'm just going to do it kind of fast because I know this isn't going to work. And close it off. Just to give you guys a little pro tip, if you have the paths panel open, you can also just control click right on your selection to make a selection. I prefer to do it that way. It's a little bit faster. And he went to edit fill, which is shift F5 is a shortcut key. And one thing he kind of skipped over is that you have to make sure this thing that says contents says content aware, and all this other stuff can stay the same, and just hit OK. And I mean, it did an admirable job, but that doesn't look real, and this is all broken, and this is super dorky, and we don't like this. This is why he said it's not going to work well for detailed backgrounds. So there's a really great tip for lining up two photos that are basically the same thing, but at a slightly different rotation or just slightly off from one another. We're gonna wanna make sure that our clean plate layer is on top. We're gonna turn it on so that it's blocking the Becca layer. And we are going to hit Control I for invert, and we're gonna hit the number 5 for 50%. So again, that's Control I for invert and the number 5 for 50%. What you can see is that any area that is the same is 50% gray. Any area that's close to the same, you get this kind of embossed look, and anything that's just completely different is gonna stand out like a sore thumb, in this case, Becca. We're close, but there's some rotation and transformation issues. So I'm gonna hit Control T to transform. So I kind of feel like the rotation thing should be down here just because there's more of an issue on this side. I'm just gonna grab up here and I'm gonna rotate till it's really close. And now I'm gonna use the arrow keys because that's really precise. I'm gonna get it as close as I can to looking solid gray around Becca. It's not gonna be perfect everywhere, things move around, but you can get it pretty close, right? And this is looking pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. And now I'm going to undo my invert, so Control I again. And I'm going to undo my 50% opacity by just hitting 0 or just dragging this slider over here to 100%. And you can see that we have two different images that are very close. They're still not perfectly close, but they're really darn close, right? So what are we going to do about that still not being perfectly close? We're going to flip the order of these layers. I'm going to drag my clean plate below BECA, and I'm going to duplicate the BECA layer and have a BECA main. I'm going to rename this BECA main. And I'm going to turn off the BECA main layer for right now, and I'm just going to use the BECA layer and the clean plate layer. I could literally just take the eraser tool, which is, I have a stylus, I'll just flip it around and erase, and you can see the background poking through behind her. But that's kind of destructive, and I don't like doing that. So I'm going to use a layer mask. These are my favoriteest thing like ever in Photoshop. So this is the layer mask button right down here in the lower right corner. I'm going to make sure my BECA layer is selected. I'm just going to click this, and that creates a layer mask. Anything that you paint black erases. Anything that you paint white comes back. So since we're in the black and I have my brush, as you can see, I'm erasing. If I were to flip that around and make white my foreground color, I can bring it back. So you see this is a non-destructive way to erase things. So it's really great for finessing things. In this case, I'm just going to kind of, in large scale, use black and just erase BECA, and you can see that the background's coming through very nicely. And I'm not going to do a particularly, you know, like finessed job of this. I'm going to do it quickly. And you can see it's looking pretty cool. It looks like a nice background. I am going to merge my clean plate and my BECA layer where I've painted out everything. I'm just going to select the two layers. I'm going to Control E for merge, or go to layer, merge layer. And now I have one layer. It's named BECA, that's wrong. I'm going to call it BG for background. Okay, so here's my BECA layer, and here's my merged background. And that is it. I'm going to save this. I've saved it as a PSD file, and I am going to bring it into Premiere. All right, guys, I actually forgot one thing. The way I compose this photo is really nice widthwise, but I totally forgot that Instagram is a heightwise thing. So I'm going to give you guys a bonus tip right now. So my bonus tip is how to extend a sky upwards quickly when you mess up your Instagram story photo composition. Luckily, we have a nice clean sky. That's the sort of best way to do this technique. What I'm going to do is take my image, and I'm going to go to Image, Canvas Size, anchor it to the bottom, and go crazy, make it like 4,000. I'm going to take my BECA main layer here, and I'm going to grab like as much of the sky that I can before I hit that flag. And I'm going to hit Control J to make a new layer out of it. So I've made this layer, and I am just going to hit Control T, and I'm going to stretch it straight up. And that's it. All right, I'm now in Premiere, and I'm going to just drag my photo in. You're going to make sure to say individual layers, check both layers, hit OK. Drag our BG layer to the new sequence icon, and we'll make a new sequence. I'm going to right click on it though really quickly because I want to just change one setting, which is I want it to be 1080 by 1920. And now we're going to drag the BECA layer on top. So this looks pretty cool, but I want more BECA and I have more space. That's why I made the image like 4,000 pixels instead of just 1920 pixels high. So I'm going to scale down my BECA layer till I can't scale no more. That looks pretty good. And then position wise, I could keep her centered, or maybe I could put her off center. So now I'm going to right click on this layer, and I'm going to hit copy, and I'm going to, on the layer below, I'm going to hit paste attributes, and I am going to just hit OK. And if I turn this off, we should have our identical layer. We are simply going to animate the opacity of BECA. We are going to start at 0, and we are going to end up at 100. That seems cool. I like that. So that is it. That is the tutorial. We could add some text up here, and you just render it and make a QuickTime out of it, or an MP4 out of it, put it on your phone, put it on Instagram stories, and you have an awesome Instagram story. All right, so that is it for this tutorial. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please feel free to hit the like button down below and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to hit you guys with at least one informative video a week. Anyway, that is it for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you next time.